Sam wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled out from under the massive air recycling unit. The space station Harmony was buzzing with activity today, and every system seemed to be acting up at the worst possible time. As the head maintenance engineer, Sam had been running from one repair job to another since dawn. Another day, another broken machine, he said to himself, checking his tablet for the next work order. The screen showed a priority alert from the diplomatic quarters. Sam sighed. Of all the days for the environmental systems to fail, it had to be today when the most important guests in the galaxy were arriving. The Zephyrian royal delegation was coming to Harmony for peace negotiations. Sam had heard the stories about the Zephyrians. They were an advanced alien race with technology that made human inventions look like stone tools. Their ships could travel between galaxies in days, and their cities floated in the clouds of their home planet. Sam gathered his tools and headed toward the diplomatic section of the station. The corridors were cleaner here, with fresh paint and polished floors. Security guards stood at attention and everyone spoke in hushed voices. Sam felt out of place in his worn work uniform, but he had a job to do. The diplomatic quarters were unlike anything else on the station. The walls curved gracefully and soft blue light came from hidden sources. Plants from dozens of different worlds created a garden-like atmosphere. Sam found the malfunctioning unit in the main living area, where the air felt thick and hard to breathe. "Great," Sam said, opening his toolbox. "The recycler is completely confused about what kind of air these folks need." He pulled out his scanner and began checking the system. The machine was trying to process 3 different atmospheric compositions at once: human air, standard station atmosphere, and something with much higher humidity and different gas mixtures. No wonder it was having problems. Sam was deep in his work when he heard voices approaching. He glanced up to see a group of tall, elegant beings entering the room. The Zephyrians had arrived, and Sam was lying on the floor surrounded by tools and spare parts. "Sorry," Sam called out, scrambling to his feet. "Just fixing your air system. I'll be out of your way in a few minutes." The group stopped and looked at him with curious expressions. Zephyrians were beautiful in an otherworldly way. Their skin had a slight blue tint, and their eyes were larger than human eyes with colors that seemed to shift in the light. They wore flowing robes that seemed to move on their own, changing colors like living rainbows. One Zephyrian stepped forward. She was clearly important. Based on the way the others positioned themselves around her, her robe was more elaborate, with silver threads that sparkled like stars. A thin crown of some crystalline material rested on her dark hair. "You are fixing our air?" she asked in perfect English, though her voice had a musical quality that made every word sound like singing. "Yes, Your Highness," Sam said, guessing at her title. The recycler got confused about what kind of atmosphere you need. "Give me 10 more minutes and you'll be breathing easy." A younger Zephyrian, barely more than a boy, stepped out from behind the others. He was breathing heavily and his blue skin looked pale. "The air hurts," he said quietly. Sam's protective instincts kicked in immediately. He had a younger sister back on Earth, and something about the boy's distress reminded him of her childhood asthma attacks. "Hey there," Sam said gently, kneeling down to the boy's level. "What's your name?" "Rio," the boy answered between difficult breaths. "Nice to meet you, Rio. I'm Sam. The air's making you sick, isn't it?" Rio nodded, and Sam could see he was struggling more than he wanted to admit. The other Zephyrians looked concerned but seemed unsure what to do. "I can fix this right now," Sam said, thinking quickly. He turned to his toolbox and began pulling out components. "Just need to make a few adjustments here." Sam had an idea, but it would require some creative engineering. He took a portable atmospheric filter from his kit, designed for human use during emergency repairs. Using wire, tape, and a small power cell, he began modifying it. "What are you doing?" the princess asked, watching with interest as Sam worked. "Making Rio a personal air cleaner," Sam explained, connecting circuits with practiced ease. "Humans are pretty good at fixing things on the spot. We call it improvising." He attached a small sensor to the device that could read Rio's biological signals and adjust the air mixture automatically. It wasn't perfect, but it would work until the main system was repaired. "Here, try this," Sam said, showing Rio how to wear the small device on his belt. A nearly invisible field of clean, properly mixed air surrounded the boy immediately. Rio took his first easy breath in hours. His color improved instantly, and he smiled brighter than Sam had ever seen anyone smile. "How did you know to do that?" the princess asked, her voice filled with amazement. Sam shrugged as he returned to fixing the main recycler. My sister had breathing problems when we were kids. You learn to notice when someone can't breathe right. Your sister? Rio asked, now breathing normally and curious about this strange human. Yeah, Maya, she's about your age actually. Really smart, loves building robots. Sam smiled as he worked. She's studying to be an engineer like me, but way better. She'll probably design starships someday. The princess watched Sam work with growing fascination. He moved with confidence and efficiency, but without any of the arrogance she usually saw in skilled individuals. He explained what he was doing in simple terms when Rio asked questions, treating the young prince like any curious kid rather than royalty. There, Sam said, closing the access panel on the recycler. Systems back online and adjusted for Zephyrian atmospheric needs. Should work perfectly now. The air in the room immediately felt fresher and more comfortable. The other Zephyrians visibly relaxed as their breathing became easier. This is remarkable, said an older Zephyrian who appeared to be an advisor. Our technician said this would take days to calibrate properly. Different approaches, I guess, Sam said, packing up his tools. Sometimes the simple fix is the best fix. Princess Kira stepped closer to Sam. What you did for Rio and for all of us, that was very kind. How can we thank you? No thanks needed, Sam said with a smile. Just doing my job. Besides, helping people feel better is the best part of any day. As Sam prepared to leave, Rio tugged on his sleeve. Sam, will you show me more human tools sometime? Sure thing, buddy. Come find me in the engineering section when you get bored with all the fancy diplomatic stuff. After Sam left, Princess Kira stood quietly for a long moment. Her friends and advisors began discussing the upcoming negotiations, but she couldn't stop thinking about the human engineer. Princess? Asked her closest friend, Nara. You seem distracted. Did you see what just happened? Kira asked, still looking toward the door where Sam had exited. The repair work? Nara replied, confused. No, Kira said slowly. The way he cared. He saw Rio struggling and didn't hesitate. He didn't ask for permission or wait for orders. He just acted. Her advisor, Counselor Vale, nodded approvingly. The human showed excellent crisis management skills. It was more than that, Kira said. He treated Rio like family, like a little brother who needed help, not a prince who might be useful politically. That evening, the royal delegation gathered in their private dining hall for their first meal, aboard Harmony. The room was beautifully decorated with both human and Zephyrian art, showing the care that had gone into preparing for their visit. Princess Kira picked at her food, her mind elsewhere. Around the table, her companions discussed the day's events and tomorrow's scheduled meetings with human diplomats. The humans seem eager to please, observed Counselor Vale. Their technology is primitive, but they're enthusiastic about learning from us. Did you meet any interesting humans today? Asked Nara, who had spent time touring the station's cultural centers. Actually, yes, Kira said, finally joining the conversation. The engineer who fixed our air system was quite remarkable. Remarkable how? Rio asked. He had been feeling much better since receiving Sam's improvised air filter. He solved our problem in minutes, but more than that, he was genuinely kind. Not because he had to be or because it would benefit him, just because helping others is natural to him. Kira's other friends exchanged glances. Princess Kira was known throughout the galaxy for her sharp mind and high standards. Noble suitors from every major civilization had tried to win her attention with grand gestures, expensive gifts, and impressive achievements. None had succeeded in capturing her interest for more than a few days. You seem quite impressed by this human, said her friend Zara carefully. I am, Kira admitted. There's something special about the way humans approach problems. They don't just use their technology or follow established procedures. They think creatively and act with compassion. Rio nodded enthusiastically. Sam was really nice. He explained everything he was doing and asked me questions about Zephyr. He wanted to know about our floating cities and our crystal forests. See? Kira said. Genuine curiosity about other cultures, not just what he could gain from us. As the meal continued, Kira found herself telling her friends more about her brief encounter with Sam, how he had worked with calm confidence, how he had treated everyone with equal respect regardless of their rank, and how his simple kindness had impressed her more than any elaborate courtship ritual ever had. Princess, Counselor Vale said gently, perhaps you should be cautious about reading too much into a chance meeting. Why? Kira asked. Because he's human? Because he's not nobility? Because he works with his hands instead of commanding others? Because you've known him for less than an hour? Vale replied diplomatically. Kira stood up from the table, her decision crystallizing in her mind. Then I'll get to know him better. I want to understand what makes humans so different from other species we've encountered. Her friends watched in surprise as Princess Kira, who had never shown sustained interest in any potential suitor, began making plans to spend more time with a human maintenance worker. Kira, Nara said softly, what exactly are you thinking? Princess Kira turned to face her closest friends, her expression more serious and determined than they had ever seen it. I'm thinking that I may have just met the most interesting person in the galaxy. And I'm thinking that if more humans are like Sam, then maybe our two species have more to offer each other than just trade agreements. You can't be serious, Zara said, though she could see in Kira's eyes that she was completely serious. I've never been more serious about anything, Kira replied. I'm going to marry that man. The room fell silent. Princess Kira had just declared her intention to marry someone she had met for less than an hour, someone from a species most Zephyrians still considered charmingly primitive. Counselor Vale cleared his throat. Princess, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Kira said firmly. I want my friends to understand. For years, suitors have tried to impress me with their achievements, their wealth, their power over others. Sam impressed me by caring about Rio's comfort more than his own convenience. He impressed me by solving problems instead of creating them. He impressed me by being genuinely good. Rio, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. I liked Sam too. He didn't talk to me like I was just a little kid. He explained things and answered my questions. Exactly, Kira said. He saw Rio as a person worth helping, not as a prince worth impressing. That tells me everything I need to know about his character. Nara leaned forward. But Kira, what do you actually know about human customs? About their culture? About how they approach relationships? That's exactly what I intend to find out, Kira replied. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to learn everything I can about humans in general and Sam in particular. And if he's not interested? Zara asked. Kira smiled for the first time that evening. Then I'll convince him. Not with royal privileges or political advantages, but by showing him that Zephyrians can be just as caring and genuine as humans. The next morning, Sam arrived at work to find an unusual message waiting for him. Princess Kira had requested his assistance with several technical projects related to cultural exchange between humans and Zephyrians. The message was formal but friendly, and it mentioned that Rio had specifically asked for Sam's help with some mechanical puzzles he wanted to understand. Sam read the message twice, wondering if there had been some mistake. Why would royalty want help from a maintenance engineer? But the request seemed genuine, and Sam had enjoyed meeting Rio the day before. He made his way to the diplomatic quarters, carrying a bag of tools and educational materials he thought might interest a curious young alien. When he arrived, he found Princess Kira waiting with several mechanical devices that appeared to be broken or incomplete. Good morning, Sam, she said warmly. Thank you for coming. Rio has been asking about you since yesterday. Happy to help, Sam replied, still feeling a bit awkward around royalty. What kind of problems are we looking at? Princess Kira led him to a table covered with various devices. Some looked like they might be Zephyrian technology, while others were clearly human-made but functioning incorrectly. We've been trying to understand how human problem-solving differs from our methods, Kira explained. These are puzzles and challenges that we'd like to see you approach. Sam looked at the collection of broken devices and smiled. This was exactly the kind of challenge he enjoyed. Mind if I ask why? This seems like pretty specialized research for a diplomatic mission. Rio convinced me that understanding how humans think and work is crucial for building real partnerships between our species, Kira said. Yesterday, you solved our air recycling problem using methods none of our technicians would have considered. We want to learn from that approach. For the next several hours, Sam worked on the various mechanical puzzles while Princess Kira and Rio watched. Sam explained his thinking process as he went, describing how he identified problems, considered multiple solutions, and chose the most practical approach. See? This device is trying to do too many things at once, Sam said, pointing to a complex Zephyrian machine. If we simplify the task and break it into smaller steps, each component can work more efficiently. Princess Kira took careful notes, asking thoughtful questions about Sam's reasoning. She was clearly intelligent and genuinely interested in understanding human approaches to engineering. "Your people prefer elegant, comprehensive solutions," Sam observed as he worked on another device. "That's really impressive. But sometimes the simple fix that works right now is better than the perfect fix that takes forever to implement." "That's a very human perspective," Kira said with a smile. "Zephyrians value perfection and long-term planning. We spend considerable time ensuring our solutions will work flawlessly for centuries." "Both approaches have merit," Sam said diplomatically. "Maybe the best solutions come from combining both perspectives." Rio had been watching everything with intense curiosity. "Sam, how did you learn to fix so many different things?" "Practice and necessity," Sam replied, showing Rio how to safely use some basic tools. "On Earth, when something breaks, you either fix it yourself or do without it. So you learn to be creative with whatever materials you have available." "We have repair specialists for everything on Zephyr," Rio said. "Each person learns one specific skill very deeply." "That makes sense for complex technology," Sam said. "But general problem-solving skills are useful too. Want me to show you some basic troubleshooting techniques?" For the next hour, Sam taught Rio simple diagnostic methods that could be applied to almost any mechanical system. Princess Kira watched the lesson with growing admiration for Sam's patient teaching style and genuine care for her brother's learning. When lunchtime arrived, Princess Kira invited Sam to join them for a meal. The dining area was set up with foods from both Earth and Zephyr, creating an interesting fusion of flavors and textures. "This is amazing," Sam said, trying a Zephyrian fruit that tasted like a combination of mango and starlight. "Your agricultural technology must be incredible to create flavors like this." "We've been perfecting our food cultivation for thousands of years," Kira explained. "But I'm curious about human food. Everything we've tried has been much more varied and surprising than we expected." Sam laughed. "Humans are pretty creative with food too. We take ingredients from all over and combine them in ways that shouldn't work but somehow do." They spent the meal sharing stories about their respective worlds. Sam told them about Earth's diverse climates and cultures, while Kira described Zephyr's floating cities and crystal gardens. Rio asked endless questions about human technology, animals, and customs. "Do all humans fix things the way you do?" Kira asked as they finished eating. "Most of us learn basic repair skills," Sam said, "but everyone has their own style. My sister Maya is much better at elegant solutions than I am. She thinks 5 steps ahead while I'm still figuring out step 1. "You mentioned her yesterday," Rio said. "She builds robots?" "She's studying robotic engineering," Sam said proudly. "Maya wants to design robots that can help people, like medical assistants or disaster rescue units. She's always been better at the big picture stuff while I'm more of a hands-on problem solver, Princess." Kira found herself drawn to Sam's obvious love for his family and his humble assessment of his own abilities. Most people she met were eager to boast about their accomplishments, but Sam seemed more interested in talking about others. After lunch, an emergency alarm echoed through the diplomatic quarters. One of the Zephyrian advisors rushed in with urgent news. "Princess, there's been an incident in the main conference room. The translation system has failed completely, and the preliminary meetings are scheduled to begin in 2 hours." Princess Kira's expression became serious. "How extensive is the failure?" "Complete system breakdown," the advisor replied. "Our technicians estimate it will take at least 6 hours to repair using standard procedures." Sam looked up from the device he had been showing Rio. "Mind if I take a look?" "Translation systems are just specialized computers, and computers are my specialty." Counselor Vale, who had just arrived, gave Sam a skeptical look. "This is highly advanced Zephyrian human hybrid technology. It requires specific training and certification to repair." "I understand," Sam said respectfully. "But if the meetings are important, maybe it's worth trying a different approach first." "If I can't help, you haven't lost anything." Princess Kira made the decision quickly. "Show us what you can do, Sam." They made their way to the conference room, where a massive translation computer filled one entire wall. The device was dark and silent, with error messages flashing on multiple screens. Several Zephyrian technicians stood around it, looking frustrated and worried. Sam approached the machine and began his standard diagnostic routine. He checked power connections, data flows, and processing units with systematic efficiency. "The problem isn't mechanical," he announced after 20 minutes of investigation. "It's a logic conflict. The system is trying to translate concepts that don't exist in both languages, so it's getting stuck in processing loops. How can you tell? Asked one of the Zephyrian technicians. Look at these error logs, Sam said, pointing to scrolling text on a monitor. Every failure happens when it encounters words for emotions or social concepts. The system doesn't know how to handle ideas that are culturally specific. Sam continued his analysis, explaining his findings to the growing crowd of observers. The solution isn't to fix the translation software. The solution is to teach it to recognize when concepts don't translate directly and offer contextual explanations instead. That would require completely reprogramming the core algorithms, another technician protested. Not necessarily, Sam said, already sketching ideas on his tablet. We can create a bypass that catches translation failures and routes them through a cultural context database. Instead of trying to translate untranslatable concepts, the system will explain them. Princess Kira watched in amazement as Sam outlined his solution. It was elegant, practical, and something that could be implemented quickly with existing components. Will this actually work? Counselor Vale asked skeptically. Only one way to find out, Sam said. But first, I'll need help from someone who understands both cultures well enough to create the context database. I can do that, Princess Kira said immediately. I've been studying human culture for years in preparation for these negotiations. Working together, Sam and Princess Kira spent the next hour implementing the bypass system. Sam handled the technical programming while Kira created cultural context entries for concepts that didn't translate directly between human and Zephyrian languages. Try this, Kira said, inputting a test phrase. In Zephyrian, we have a word that means the satisfaction of solving a problem that helps others. There's no direct human equivalent. Sam's bypass system caught the untranslatable term and displayed Kira's contextual explanation instead of failing completely. Perfect, he said. Now try something from human culture. How about homesick? Sam suggested. The system successfully identified that Zephyrians don't experience homesickness the same way humans do, since their society is built around collective consciousness, rather than individual attachment to specific places. It provided a cultural explanation that made the human concept understandable to Zephyrian minds. This is brilliant, said the lead Zephyrian technician, watching the test results. Why didn't we think of this approach? Because you were trying to create perfect translations, Sam said. Sometimes good enough right now is better than perfect later. Princess Kira looked at Sam with newfound respect. You've just saved our entire diplomatic mission. These negotiations have been planned for months. We saved it, Sam corrected gently. I couldn't have done the cultural programming without your help. This was teamwork. As the afternoon wore on, more Zephyrians arrived to observe the unusual collaboration between their princess and the human engineer. Word spread quickly through the delegation that Princess Kira was working closely with one of the station's maintenance staff. Princess, Nara said quietly during a brief break. People are talking. Let them talk, Kira replied. This is the most productive and interesting day I've had in years. By evening, the translation system was working better than it ever had before. The bypass system had prevented dozens of potential misunderstandings, and both human and Zephyrian technicians were impressed with the results. Sam, Princess Kira said as they finished the final tests, would you join us for dinner? I'd like my friends to hear about your sister's robotics work, and I have more questions about human problem-solving methods. I'd be honored, Sam said, though he still felt a bit overwhelmed by the attention from royalty. That night, in the diplomatic dining hall, Sam found himself seated next to Princess Kira at a table full of Zephyrian nobility. The conversation flowed easily, covering topics from engineering to family to dreams for the future. Maya would love to meet you all, Sam said, describing his sister's fascination with alien technology. She's always wondered how different species approach engineering challenges. Perhaps that can be arranged, Princess Kira said thoughtfully. We're always interested in meeting talented young engineers. As the evening progressed, Sam began to relax around the Zephyrian nobles. They were genuinely interested in human perspectives and asked thoughtful questions about Earth's diverse cultures and approaches to problem-solving. Your species fascinates me, Kira told Sam as dessert was served. Humans seem to possess an unusual combination of creativity, adaptability, and compassion. It's quite rare in the galaxy. I think every species has those qualities, Sam said modestly. Maybe we just express them differently. Perhaps, Kira said, but I've met representatives from dozens of civilizations, and none have impressed me the way you have today. Sam felt his cheeks warm at the compliment. I just did what anyone would do. No, Kira said seriously. You did what you would do, and that makes all the difference. As the dinner wound down, Princess Kira's friends gathered around their table for casual conversation. The formal atmosphere of earlier had given way to genuine friendship and mutual interest. Sam, Zara said, Kira has told us so much about your work today. We're all curious about human engineering methods. Happy to share, Sam said, though I should mention that I'm just one engineer. Humans have lots of different approaches to solving problems. That's exactly what makes your species so interesting, Nara observed. Most civilizations develop standardized methods and stick to them. Humans seem to constantly create new approaches. Princess Kira listened to the conversation with growing certainty about her feelings. Sam's humility, creativity, and genuine care for others represented everything she had been hoping to find in a partner. More importantly, he treated her as an equal, not as a prize to be won or a political alliance to be secured. As the evening ended and the guests began to disperse, Princess Kira walked Sam to the door. Thank you for today, she said sincerely. You've given me a new perspective on what's possible when different species work together. Thank you for including me, Sam replied. This has been one of the most interesting days of my life. Would you be interested in spending more time together while we're here? Kira asked. I'd love to learn more about human culture and engineering methods. I'd like that very much, Sam said with a genuine smile. After Sam left, Princess Kira rejoined her friends in the sitting area. They looked at her expectantly, waiting for her to explain the day's events. Well? Nara asked. Princess Kira sat down gracefully, her expression calm but determined. I meant what I said yesterday. I'm going to marry Sam. Kira, Counselor Vale said carefully. You've spent one day with this human. Don't you think you should take more time to consider such an important decision? I've spent years meeting potential suitors, Kira replied. Princes, generals, scientists, artists, diplomats. All of them accomplished, all of them eager to impress me, and none of them made me feel the way Sam did today. How did he make you feel? Zara asked genuinely. Like myself, Kira said simply. Not like a princess who needs to be impressed or a political asset to be acquired or a challenge to be conquered. Just like Kira, a person worth knowing for who I am. Her friends exchanged meaningful looks. They had all witnessed years of disappointing courtships and Kira's growing frustration with superficial relationships. And what about Sam? Rio asked. Do you think he's interested in you? I think he's interested in being friends, Kira said honestly. Which is perfect because the best marriages start with genuine friendship and mutual respect. This is really happening, isn't it? Nara said, though she was starting to smile. This is really happening, Princess Kira confirmed. And I've never been happier about a decision in my life. As her friends continued discussing the implications and possibilities, Princess Kira gazed out the window at the stars beyond the station. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities to learn about Sam and to show him that love could transcend species, cultures, and social expectations. For the first time in years, she was excited about the future. Sam woke up early the next morning, feeling more energetic than he had in months. Working with Princess Kira and Rio the day before had been the most interesting experience of his career. He dressed quickly and headed to the engineering section, wondering if the princess would really want to continue learning about human technology. His question was answered when he arrived at his workshop to find a message waiting. Princess Kira had requested another day of cultural and technical exchange, this time focusing on collaborative problem-solving methods. She wanted to bring several of her advisors to observe human engineering approaches. Sam spent the morning preparing demonstrations and gathering examples of human innovation. He selected tools and devices that showed how humans adapted existing technology for new purposes. By the time Princess Kira arrived with her group, Sam had created an interactive workshop that would showcase human creativity. Good morning, Sam, Princess Kira said warmly as she entered the workshop. I brought some of our technical staff who are curious about your methods. Behind her came Counselor Vale, two Zephyrian engineers, Nara and Rio, who was carrying a small bag of his own tools. Sam was touched that the young prince had prepared for a hands-on learning session. Welcome to my workshop, Sam said, gesturing around the room. It's not fancy, but it's functional. Today I thought we could work on some real problems together and see how our different approaches complement each other. Sam had prepared 3 different challenges. The first was a communication device that needed to work in both human and Zephyrian ships. The second was a safety system for mixed crews working in space. The third was an educational tool that could teach both species about each other's technology. Let's start with the communication problem, Sam suggested. Princess Kira, what are the biggest challenges Zephyrians face when trying to communicate with humans? Context and emotional subtext, Kira replied immediately. Humans communicate a great deal through implications and cultural references that we don't share. Exactly, Sam said, and humans have trouble with Zephyrian precision. When you say something means exactly what the words indicate, we keep looking for hidden meanings that aren't there. Working together, they designed a communication system that included cultural context indicators. When a human made a joke or reference, the system would flag it as non-literal communication. When a Zephyrian made a precise statement, it would indicate that no interpretation was needed. This is fascinating, said one of the Zephyrian engineers. You're solving the problem by acknowledging the differences instead of trying to eliminate them. Different doesn't mean wrong, Sam explained. It just means we need better tools to understand each other. As they worked on the second challenge, Sam noticed that Princess Kira was an exceptionally quick learner. She grasped human engineering concepts rapidly and often suggested improvements that combined Zephyrian precision with human adaptability. You have a real talent for this, Sam told her during a break. Have you studied engineering before? I've studied many subjects, Kira replied. Zephyrian royalty is expected to understand all aspects of society, including technology, but I've never found it as interesting as I do when working with you. Why do you think that is? Sam asked, genuinely curious. Kira considered the question carefully. Because you teach by doing, not just by explaining, and because you make it feel like exploration rather than obligation. Rio, who had been listening while working on his own project, looked up. Sam makes everything seem possible. Like any problem can be solved if you think about it the right way. Sam felt a warm glow at the compliment. That's very kind, Rio. But remember, the best solutions usually come from teams working together. The afternoon brought an unexpected test of that philosophy. An alarm sounded throughout the station, followed by an announcement that sent everyone into emergency mode. Attention all personnel. We have a critical failure in the main life support system. All non-essential personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Sam was on his feet instantly. I need to get to the central engineering deck. This is all hands emergency. Can we help? Princess Kira asked. I don't know if civilians are allowed in the emergency areas, Sam said, already gathering his tools. Counselor Vale stepped forward. Princess, perhaps we should return to the diplomatic quarters and wait for updates. No, Kira said firmly. If this is a crisis that affects the entire station, we should offer our assistance. Sam, what kind of life support failure are we dealing with? Sam checked his emergency communicator as they hurried through the corridors. Looks like the main oxygen processing plant has shut down. The backup systems can keep us alive for maybe 8 hours, but that's not enough time for a complete rebuild. 8 hours to solve a life support crisis, Nara said nervously. That seems very short. It is, Sam agreed. But maybe we can find a way to extend the deadline or create temporary solutions while the main repairs happen.